have a special guest, Bob Fryz. They call him the GodFather in my area. Bob is an automotive legend. Everybody from Michigan and around the United States knows who Bob is. We picked Bob because he's got an awesome history, a great collection, and he's connected to many of the automotive legends who are no longer with us today. Please watch his story and tell us what you think. All right, welcome back, everybody. Gary Sobry from Refinished Media. As always, David is behind the mic and the cameras today. Today, we got a really special guest. We're in Taylor, Michigan, beautiful Taylor, Michigan, and we have Bob Shaboom Fryz today. And we're going to talk about his legendary car collection, some of his stories, some of his background. So, hey, thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
As always, with every guest, we always want to start off with this. What's your first car ever, year, make, and model?
Well, my first car was a 55 Ford convertible that was yellow and black. Paid $600 for it, and that was my very first car. It was yellow and black. It was called the Bumblebee. And so over the years, I've named a lot of my cars, and it was kind of thing we did back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah. How old were you when you bought that car? Are you 16?
16 years, just 2 months after I turned 16.
How long did you own it for?
I owned it for about 5 years.
Okay.
And I used to take it to Detroit Dragway and run it at Detroit Dragway.
One of the reasons why I asked this question is that growing up in my father's shop, all of his buddies, they'd sit around. We call it bench racing, where we'd sit around, oh, my car was faster than yours. Oh, my Corvette was faster than your Mustang. And I would always ask the old guys, what happened to your first car? And they'd almost a tear would come into it. And oh, that was the one car that I should have never got rid of or whatever. You ever regret getting rid of that one?
Yes, I do. And I've tried to find it over the years through social media and things like that, but I could never find the exact car. If I do find the exact car, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah. Maybe we should put it out. Comment down below if you know where his car is at right now. We can help him find this car.
Right.
So, and I'm sure that he'd give a small reward if you find this car.
Oh, yeah, I will.
So my question to you is, you know, you own a big car collection. I'd like to slowly go through some of the cars and stuff. And I mean, the funny thing is, you know, in my opinion, you're a legendary automotive enthusiast. Everybody from Michigan knows who you're at, who knows who you are. If you're out there watching this right now and you go, I don't know who this guy is. Okay, I guarantee you know his cars or seen his cars. Is we have one car behind us, Shaboom Gone Wild. But how many cars do you own right now?
Actually, I have 45.
45 cars.
Yes. No, they're not all finished. I have probably about 15 of them are project cars that I plan on doing and making them my own twist on them, you know. And I love custom cars, and that's what I build is pretty much custom cars here. And we do all our work right in the garage here, and I have friends that are in the industry that help me do things and do painting. And so, yeah, we all kind of work on our little projects together.
Yeah.
Help each other out.
So, I mean, that's one of the cool things about you is, you know, we're not sitting in a $10 million warehouse and, you know, got the best of the best. This is like what I think car guys own, you know, a nice garage with every tool that you need, but it's not being built in an industrial warehouse with a $200,000 paint booth over here and, you know, plasma cutters and the best of the best. And you're still building super, super high end cars.
Right.
You know,
so yeah, I love customs, and that's kind of, I lean towards is the custom cars. And over the years, that's what we did way back when. And a lot of my friends that across the country that I've gotten involved with, like Gene Winfield or Bill Hines and things like that, they were custom car builders. And that's what we all love. That's why we all kind of hung around together.
Yeah.
And it's like changing the headlights or putting Buick headlights on a Mercury or a Pontiac bumper on a 56 Ford or something like that. So that's what we did. We changed parts and used parts from other cars and you had some were done very tastefully and some weren't.
Yeah.
So some people just slap parts on, but you got to look at the car and the way the car flows when you're doing something like that, because you want it to look like it fits to that car. And really, when you're done with it, it looks cool.
Yeah. No, and I always appreciated that about the generation before me is you guys didn't have the internet. You couldn't look at a picture and go, that looks good or that's been done. You had to do trial by error, and you had to have that artistic ability to make that car look
and
good.
It's kind of in your head is what you build this car and what you see, visualize, because we couldn't do renderings, had an artist do renderings for us, for these high dollar cars and things like that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a vision, what you had in your head, what you wanted that car to look like, and these Packard taillights that look good on the back of this 56 Chevy or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the way we built our cars.
You brought up two big names, and I guarantee we have a lot of viewers out there who may have heard the name, but they don't know the story. Is, who was Bill Hines? What, how'd you meet him? What impact did he have on our industry?
Well, Bill Hines was known as the lead slinger, and that was his nickname. And he did his cars. He didn't put Bondo on cars. He put lead and shaped and formed different taillights and things like that. But he did it in lead. He fished it off of all metal, all lead.
Yeah.
And so he was known, and he was originally from Wyandotte, Michigan. And he was a local builder that is kind of a legend around here. He moved to California way back when, in the 60s, and George Barris asked him to come there to build a Batmobile. And so he went there to help George build a Batmobile. And George was in California, and he was hooked up with all the Universal Studios and all these movie producers, so he built cars for the movies. And since Bill Hines was so good at doing this, he called him to come out there and do it.
Yeah.
And so the car he actually first drove out there was called the Little Bat, which I actually own, and it's in one of my garages here.
It's here in Michigan?
It's here, yeah. And a few years ago, we had a Detroit Autorama in the basement, and we actually chopped the top on it. The car never did get finished, because when Bill brought the car back after he drove back to Michigan, he started customizing it. And then he ended up, like a couple years later, George called him because he went back to California to help him build some more cars for another movie. Bill stayed out there in California, so he stayed there and never did come back only to visit in Michigan. But we still had that connection. His nephew Teddy Z lives who worked with him in his shop. Only lives a couple miles down the road here.
He's known for interiors, correct? Teddy Z, or no? Or am I mixing him up with somebody else?
He does some interior work, but he does some customizing work, and he's done a few custom cars over the years too.
Okay.
But he actually, as a kid, he worked at Bill Hines' shop, and I actually have another one of Bill Hines' car. It's a 57 Lincoln called the Big Bat, and I bought that a couple years ago from the family, and so those are the kind of cars I collect. And I have a couple of Gene Winfield cars, John DiAgostino cars. I'm trying to save. I keep buying these cars because I'm trying to save these old cars from distinction. And
that's great. I mean, they're, in my opinion, they're historically important.
Right.
And I mean, and a lot of people don't realize this about like race cars and old customs, is they were throwaways. They were like baseball cards almost. People didn't collect that stuff. That's why baseball cards are so expensive now, because people didn't keep them. They didn't see the value. And unfortunately, cars were like that back in the day.
Yep.
And I think it's important historically, for guys like you to keep and preserve those cars.
Right.
So, I mean, it's awesome. So you said George Barris. Did you ever meet him? Did you know George or Sam or any of those guys?
George and I were very good friends. And yeah, we used to go to all the car shows together and meet up. And I actually have some trophies over there that I've won at different shows where I got the George Barris pick, as the best custom at the show or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to hang around with a lot of these people, and we, when you went to these shows, you go out in the evening, you go out to dinner with all these people, and and sometimes you say, "Wow, I'm sitting here with George Barris, Gene Winfield, Bill Hines, Linda Vaughn, all these people, all the people from American Graffiti, Candy Clark and Paula Matt, and it's like we're sitting there like the who's who of cars,
And guys like me would only get to read about them in magazines and stuff like that, or maybe see them from a distance at a car show or whatever.
And you're just honored to be with those people.
I got a funny George Barris story for you. Like around 2005, we're in Detroit at Autorama, and we're setting up a show, and George Barris walks up, and you can pick George Barris out just by the way he dresses from a mile away. He's got the gold jacket with the star. He comes up and he takes a flyer off. And I recognized him, and I look around, and I'm with a bunch of 18-year-old students. I'm like, "Do you see who that was? Do you see it?" And they go, "Who's that?" I go, "That's George Barris." And they go, "Who?" And I'm like, "Man, these kids, you don't know who George Barris is."
Yep.
So he's reading the card about 20 feet away. I walk up and I put my arm around because he's a smaller guy.
Yeah.
And I kind of give him a little hug and I say, "Excuse me, sir, are you interested in learning how to do paint and body?" Because, we're at school. And he just flips around like he's like, "You don't know." And then he knows that I got him.
Yeah.
And then, we just talk, and he ended up giving me one of his cards that's all gold and all that. And I actually kept it. It's one of the few things that I kept. So it was pretty funny seeing the look on his face.
Yeah.
I always liked Barris.
He was a good guy. Yep.
So you mentioned Gene Winfield too. You're pretty good friends with him. Unfortunately, George Barris, Sam Barris, Bill Hines are no longer with us, unfortunately. But Gene's still out there kicking at 96 years old, I believe.
He's 96, going to be 97 in June, and he's still going to car shows every week or every other week, and still signing autographs. And yeah, he's a legend, and he's one of the first guys from back. Gene, actually, we've been friends for 40 years, good friends, and so Gene and I have worked on projects together, the Jade Idol 2 and a couple other cars. We chopped the Heinz car together. We chopped a couple other cars together. And but Gene started out back in the 40s. He was in the Navy, in the service. And after he got out, he was stationed in Japan. And he told me he got to learn how to do a lot of metal work when he was in Japan. And so after he got out, he started a little garage in his backyard working on cars. And one of his first cars was like a little roadster that he would drive around town. And then Gene, became known as a metal worker, finisher. And so he did a lot of that. He built his paint jobs are just beautiful. The way he paints them with the fades and things like that. So yeah, he's very well known and very personable. People love him all over the world. Actually, he just went to a few months ago. He went to Yokohama, Japan, to the Moon Eye show.
Wow.
And he had 96 years old, and you're going around the world still,
and still working on cars,
and still working on cars, and
yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I it's funny when you think like he was a teenager when Pearl Harbor started.
Yep.
In 1941 when Pearl Harbor, and it's like, and he's still today in 2024, kicking ass and taking names and building cars and going to shows and out grinding some young guys.
Yeah. Yeah, he can do it still.
Yeah.
And he can sit here and just tell you stories. And about, things in his past and cars he's built and people he's met and all over the world.
What's probably, I mean, Gene is absolutely known for the Gene Winfield fade. And I mean, especially in the paint and body world, for the people who are out there in the paint and body world, the Gene Winfield fade. But like, what car or cars do you think he's probably best known for?
Well, probably the best known car is the Jade Idol, the original Jade Idol. That's probably one of them. He's got the car called the Solar Scene, and the Reactor, and the Strip Star, which he hand built. And Gene took the Reactor to Universal Studios, hand built it, and he kind of BS'd his way into the gate, and because he wanted to become a movie car builder, and he says, "Oh yeah, so and so in studio wants me to bring this car to show it to him," and he ended up getting in and went over there and talked to one of the producers or something like that, and they come out and they started doing videos on this car and taking pictures, and he got his way in there to build cars for movies.
So you telling me that just with some charm and
Yes.
the Gene Winfield charm, he got through security and got the car in?
You can go on the internet and look at a picture of the Reactor, and one of the pictures that was taken that day was William Shatner that was standing next to that car. They came out of the building to take a picture next to that car.
Yeah.
And it's on the internet. You can Google it and see it. But yeah, Gene got his way through a lot of doors that way.
Yeah. He's always had a great personality. Though.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, and there's a reason why he has stood the test of time. He's very personable. People like him. I mean, obviously, I don't know him as well as you do, but Gene's always been really, really nice to me through the years. The first time I met Gene was through you, and I kept the Barris card that I told earlier. The only other thing that I've kept through all these years, one year Gene sent me a Christmas card, which was really his people probably.
Yeah.
But so what? I kept it.
Right. Yeah, he still sends me one every year.
Yeah. I only got it 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So that must have been a good year. I don't think I got it the second year. So earlier you were talking about like you and Gene like chop tops together and stuff. For the people out there that are new into cars, what is chopping tops about? What is that exactly?
Well, chopping a top is, and they do it different cars, and what they do is they cut the top down because the tops were so bubbly on some of the old cars, like say a 50 Ford. Well, if you chopped it down and made it more slimline, if you look at the original Shaboom car, it's been chopped 3.5 inches. And not only do you have to configure everything so it looks right, and you stand back and look at it so it all flows together, you have a lot of other things like if you chop the top, you got to chop the door and the windows, and the windshield has to be chopped. Now, the hard ones are the ones that have a curved window. The ones that have a flat window, like this car here, has been chopped, and but it has flat windows in it. Yeah. So that's easier to do that way. But the ones that actually have, like, say, a 57 Ford, you got a window that curves, and or a lot of the other cars. And so those are kind of harder to do. And but Gene figures it out as he's doing it, and he sits there with a marker, and he marks, we're going to cut this here, and then we got to slice the center of the roof, and we got to bring the roof back in, and so you're chopping that roof up quite a few different places. Now you got to put it all back together and weld it so it actually flows.
So, I mean, not only do you have to do structural where you're welding and stuff, there's a lot of artistic and math and engineering and stuff involved in it. I mean, it seems simple until you actually get in it. And it's amazing how taking 2 or 3 inches off something is so complicated.
Yeah.
One of the cheap moves that a lot of the guys do, instead of having to cut down the front windshield, is they'll cut the A-pillars and they'll lean it back a little bit.
Exactly.
Yep. And it doesn't work in every car, but I mean, that
right.
is like, if you can get away with it type
right.
of deal.
It's like that the 58 Chrysler I have that Gene did back in the 80s. It's that gold one right over there. And um, it's got a Challenger rear window in it. The top's been chopped 3.5 inches, and it just flows so nice the way he did it.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
So that's kind of what chopping the top is about, but not everybody can do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a question that's on my mind is, why would anybody want to own 40 cars? That seems like a lot of cars to own and maintain and insure and store. I mean, well, there's people out there that say that's not normal. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
But there's people out there that think that that's not normal. So why would anybody want to own 40 cars?
Well, sometimes I ask myself that question. I see a car and I see potential on something, and I say, God, I could really chop the top, or I could put these taillights or that bumper or this grill on that car. I'm saying that would be really cool. And then I go, yeah, I'm just going to buy it. And I'll get to it one of these days. But a lot of them I don't get to. Like we did this truck idea I come up with, to this dragon truck with the fire and all this stuff. Because somebody actually gave me a challenge. Starbirds kind of gave me a challenge to bring something different every year to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so I've had Shaboom there. I've had the truck there. I've had a couple other things there. I actually had the Dream Truck. I have a truck there was a Dream Truck that was built by Gene Winfield and Bears and all them back in the 60s. So I built it's not a clone, but a tribute truck to it, which they wanted me to bring to Tulsa a few years ago. And he says, well, that truck would look really cool if you had it looking like the Dream Truck. So I did that, and I had it shooting flames, and it was it's kind of same colors and everything as the Dream Truck, kind of purple and white. And so they gave me a challenge to do something like that. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. So me and Shaggy painted it, and we had it ready, and we had it ready for the show the same way I did this Dragon truck. They challenged me last year to bring something different every year because they want to change their show up.
Yeah.
And so they challenged me to do something different. And I said, okay, I got an idea.
So you built the whole vehicle basically on a bet, for lack of
yeah, on just a challenge, That's so we did this whole truck. It's a 58 Chevy pickup with a 57 Lincoln back end on it. And the Dragon, I had Dion, who's an artist, does these stainless steel artwork. And so I saw he made one of these big dragons that he had at Autorama. Well, Gene Winfield actually bought the Dragon. So I went to Dion and I says, hey, can you make me one similar, So I mounted the Dragon head in the back of this truck and make it go up and down. There's fire coming out of the mouth and smoke coming out of the nose. And, and the thing is, there was so many kids that took pictures in front of that Dragon truck. And that's part of what this is all about, is the kids, their eyes are wide open. Wow, look at that,
Absolutely.
And so that's kind of a thing that I enjoy too. And
so for those who don't know, so not only do you have 40 cars, you're trying to tell me that you own a car or multiple cars that shoot flames? Like, what are we talking? Like a flame this big that comes out of the back? I mean,
no, I actually have a truck that'll shoot fire 100 feet in the air. And, I've Shaboom. Everybody knows Shaboom from shooting fire on Woodward and all these other places. That's probably the car that's most well known is the original Shaboom, which I've had for 30 years.
What kind of car is Shaboom?
Shaboom's a 51 Ford shoebox. It's customized. I've changed the car 4 or 5 times and repainted it 4 or 5 times because I get a new idea. And so it's been on every Woodward Dream Cruise since the very first one, like 28 years now. And everybody on Woodward, they love seeing it. They wait every year for me to show up with it and shoot some fire. Well, in the meantime, I've had 15 tickets on Woodward.
What does those tickets cost?
They're about $150 a piece, and I just pay them, and they're okay. It's just part of the show. I got another ticket this year, so one year I had the cop was going to impound Shaboom, and I kind of got saved actually by another cop who was on a motorcycle who was kind of a friend who wanted to see me shooting flames all the time. So he told the other cop to, no, just give him his ticket and let him go. Don't impound the car, so.
If you out there have not seen Shaboom or Shaboom Gall Wild, the new Dragon truck, shoot flames, Google search it, look it up in YouTube or whatever. Maybe we'll add some from the B-reel or whatever, but it's the coolest thing ever. And if that doesn't get your heart going or your adrenaline racing, you may not be alive out there. So I've always, for the people out there who don't know, you hear about like, oh, we used to drag race on Woodward or the Woodward Dream Cruise. What is Woodward and what is the Dream Cruise about?
Well, the Dream Cruise actually started, I think, 28 years ago. And it started in Ferndale, Michigan, as just a short little cruise, which was maybe a mile long. Well, when everybody heard about it, before it even started, it ended up being 5 miles long. And so it was actually just supposed to be like a local cruise for a charity for a kid in Ferndale. And it grew so much and so big that now it goes for 15 miles all the way up to Pontiac and back. Starts at 8 Mile. And there's 7 cities, total cities it goes through. From what I understand, there's anywhere from 60 to 70,000 cars that weekend. And there's like over 200,000 people that actually come to it from all over the world.
Yeah, they say it's the largest cruise in the world and arguably the best known.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it's just, if you guys have not been to the Woodward Dream Cruise, I mean, you can go a week before it. And
we start a week ahead of time.
Yeah, it's like, oh, the Woodward Dream Cruise started early. No, this is the pre-party.
Yeah, and Shaboom has been on every one of them since the first one, and I make it a point I'm out there like, I probably do 3 or 4 days during the week, and then I'm there all day on Saturday, and I make sure every Saturday I go start at 8 Mile Road, and I go up there and start at 8 Mile, and I go all the way up to Pontiac and turn around and come all the way back. I make that complete tour of the whole thing. And
I don't know if it's true. And I heard that the Woodward Dream Cruise originally started because somebody was trying to raise money for like a soccer team or something.
Yeah, it was something like that, or some kind of charity, or
and then it just turned into like this.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, did you ever race on Woodward or anything like that? Drag race on Woodward?
Well, yes, I did. I used to go out to Woodward. When we got a few guys together, see, I started racing when I was 16 with that 55 Ford.
Yeah.
And then, the next year I'd have a different car I raced or whatever. And so then I started. At 16, I was going out to Detroit Dragway every weekend. Every Saturday morning, we'd be out sitting on Sibley and Dick's over there, sitting by the side of the road, waiting to get in.
Yeah.
And so we went there. And then on the way home, we would come back down Telegraph. And from Telegraph and Eureka all the way up to like Plymouth Road or 96 up that way, we just go back and forth all night long, just racing, people.
You always hear legendary stories about like guys like John DeLorean when he was with, GM or the Pontiac division.
Right.
They would take a car out and they would race this guy or that guy. Why Woodward? Why not Michigan Avenue? What was the draw to Woodward?
Well, Woodward was kind of the centrally located of all the hot rod people up that way. And that's where a lot of the tech center was out that way. And they would actually bring those cars out of the factories and take them on Woodward and race the guys on the street to see what they do. And, of course, they didn't tell anybody about it, but
and a lot of people say that there's no way that they did that back then. They absolutely would take, GM or Ford or Chrysler owned cars.
Yeah.
And even guys like John DeLorean, who's a Michigan guy.
Right.
I mean, everyone thinks he was European or Californian because he had that look to him.
Right.
But he went to Lawrence Tech, I believe, and he was absolutely a Michigan guy, and he would drag race on Woodward.
Yep. So, we were kind of the West Side group, but then we get a bunch of guys to go there. All right, let's go up to Woodward and go up there and race some of them guys up there.
Were you a Ford guy growing up or didn't care? Or
I mostly have been Ford and Chevy.
Ford and Chevy?
Yeah. So I had Fords and Chevys. Pretty much those are the two I race most of the time.
The cars that you own or the cars that you like, is there any particular era, like, pre-World War, 50s, 60s? Is there something you kind of lean to?
I lean, probably the majority of all my cars are between 1948 and 1960. And I think that's when the design of cars were just over the top, with the fins and different taillights and headlights and bumpers and things like that, where they had a design to them that, I don't know, they were more nostalgic or Art Deco to them. And that's why we take these parts off all these different cars and put them together and switch them around and things like that.
Yeah, the Harvey Earl cars and the Bill Mitchell cars that came out of GM in that era. I mean, I agree with you. I think that they're the prettiest cars. I mean, they weren't just, the technology wasn't just cool and cutting edge. They were rolling pieces of art.
Exactly. That's what they were, rolling pieces of art. And you had all these concept cars. Well, guys would take their regular car, a 57 Chevy or a Cadillac or something like that, and they try to make it look like one of these concept cars. And, like Darryl Starbird built all these bubble top cars back then, and, Jetson looking cars and things like that. And, in fact, his son's still doing it. They just finished another car this year. So they're still building these bubble top cars.
I got a funny story for you. Have you ever seen that cartoon, that Toy Story, the one with like Tom Hanks and all those guys? They do a good job of explaining it, and of course I'm hearing it from a car person's point of view. Is that before the space race, every young boy wanted to be a cowboy.
Right.
And then, as soon as like us and Russia started going back and forth, is everybody wanted to be like an astronaut or whatever. And it's weird because if you look at our cars from those 50s and 60s when the space race is they really did look like rocket ships and NASA.
Yep.
And then, right around, I don't know, like if I'm looking at GM and Cadillac, 59 had the big fins, and then 60, they got a little shorter. And then it started to kind of tail off a little bit right there. And it's kind of funny how, cars, they explain that situation in that TV show. Like, cars were like basically dictating, reality or art, if you will. I don't know. I always thought that was interesting. They didn't explain it exactly like that in the TV show, but that's what I heard,
Yes.
And I think they were prettier in the 50s and 60s.
They were. It was, the fins and even the interiors were, and all the push button Chryslers had all the push button shifters and things like that, and floor shifters and consoles, and the dashboards looked like a rocket ship in some of them.
Most people don't know this. So the car that I drove here has got an automatic transmission. So when I just drive, it does it, automatically.
Right.
And then, like my performance cars are manual. Are you telling me in the 50s they had cars that you could push buttons and change gears and stuff like that?
Yeah.
In the 1950s?
Oh, yeah. They, well, in fact, the 78 Chrysler I have, it has forward, neutral, drive, and you push the button for it. And so Chrysler did a lot of the push button stuff. And then like the dashboard on, there's a couple right there on the toolbox, 61 Chrysler had that bubble top speedometer cluster in it, and it just looked like a bubble on a spaceship or
Gorgeous.
something.
Yeah, work of art. They cared about craftsmanship and quality, and it was just gorgeous how they did that.
Right.
So out of all your cars that you own, and you can't say, oh, I love them all, they're like my kids, everybody gives me that stuff. If all the cars that you currently own, if you had to just leave with one, which one would it be? Which is your favorite?
Well, that's hard to pick. I do love them all. Whether it's a custom or a high quality build or a rat rod looking type car, I still like them all. But to answer your question, it would have to be Shaboom, because I've had it the longest, or car, and it just I love the car. I can drive it anywhere, take it. It shows good, and people love the car. And it shoots fire.
So it's funny, the car behind us, it kind of looks like Shaboom, but it's not Shaboom. Is what is this car behind us? It doesn't look like a Ford to me.
No, this was a 48 Cadillac, and I got an idea. I went to the SEMA show, and I do this every year. If I go to SEMA, I come up with these ideas, and I see different cars and I start putting them together in my head. And I say, oh, well, that paint job would look good on this car. And then like the Mickey Thompson tires and wheels here, that was a new set that they came out with. And so I said, oh, that's what I want on that car. And this Cadillac was sitting in a garage back there. I didn't like the colors on it. And so I says, we need to make that look like Shaboom. So my friend, Boogeyman, you've probably heard of Boogeyman. So he's an excellent painter and body man. And so he does some really nice cars. And I said, Boogeyman, can you make this look like Shaboom? And then I have another friend, Ron Seedlack, who helps build engines. And so I says, let's get this engine, and it's a 545 big block Chevy. It's got about 900 horsepower. I said, let's put a blower on it, and I want it to stick way up in the air. And so we built this car in about 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
When I came back from SEMA, we had this ready for Autorama that very next year. And so I kind of wanted the Shaboom theme. I had to come up with something like, okay, I took Shaboom and made it kind of wild now, so I called it Shaboom Gone Wild. And so I've had it to the drag strip and had it to a lot of shows and stuff like that. In fact, I had a rat fink sitting on top of it because if you remember all the model cars where they had the rat fink sitting on top, and all the drawings that Ed Roth used to do had wild-looking cars like this, and he drew a rat fink coming out of the roof. And so I wanted to recreate something like that, just wild and crazy. And so that's what I did that year at Autorama, is I built this one and put the rat fink on top of it.
So I had this German Shepherd once, and he was lonely, so I got him another German Shepherd for a friend. To me, it looks like Shaboom was just lonely, and you wanted to get Shaboom a friend. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, that's that too. Yeah, I needed to have one that was like Shaboom, but you know, just a little bit different. And kind of what I did with this one is, at the time, I said I got to create something that has all the things that I've grown up with and things that I've loved and liked to do. So I took Shaboom. I made this one a custom. It's got a chop top and the headlights are redone in the back. And so I want to do a custom, but I want it to look like Shaboom. But also, all them years, I used to race at Detroit Dragway. So I want it to be my Shaboom race car too. And so I incorporated all that into one car.
When you say race car, you mean to tell me that this thing has went down the quarter-mile before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's been down a few times, down the quarter-mile. I just did a kind of a little show at Milan this past summer. We had that car show at Detroit Dragway Reunion. Well, they let you do fun runs. And so it's just you and your buddy can race each other or whatever, or just take it down the strip to see what kind of time it turned. So they said, well, we're going to let you go last. So they wanted me to be the last car for the fun runs. And so I says, all right. So I got in the burnout box, and all my buddies were taking videos of Shaboom. And I said, all right, you guys keep your videos ready. I went in the burnout box, and the guy will tell you, okay, go ahead and go do your little burnout and then go up there and go down the track. I sat in the burnout box for 5 minutes. The guy kept going, yeah, go ahead. After a couple minutes, he says, oh, well, he walked away. And I just sat there doing a burnout. You couldn't even see the buildings anymore.
Yeah.
So the crowd went wild. And so I do stuff like that.
Yeah, the crowd loves that stuff.
You know,
absolutely.
And I'm not trying to win a race, or I wasn't trying to get best time or anything like that. So I just figured I'd burn the tires off of it.
Absolutely. How did those tires look after that day? Did you have to replace them?
Yeah, they're still on there, but they're barely holding air.
You mentioned SEMA and Autorama. In your opinion, are they the same type of shows? What's the difference between like a SEMA and a Detroit Autorama?
Well, they're quite different. Detroit is, you know, custom cars and trucks and boats and anything you want to bring, mini bikes, or it's a combination. It's more of a show that shows everybody's cars and all types, which I think that's what a show should be. It should be a little bit of everything for everybody, not just one person. And people bring Mustangs, they bring Corvettes, and they bring but not everybody loves a custom car. Not everybody loves a Corvette. So it's a combination of everything, which is great for car shows because that way there's something there for everybody. Now, SEMA is the aftermarket car, I forget what they call it, association or something like that. Society of Engineers.
Yeah, they've changed it. It's like the Specialty Equipment Manufacturers
Exactly.
Association.
That's what it is. And it's the aftermarket parts that you put onto a car. And there's all kind of cars there too. But basically they're selling products, and it's the manufacturer's show that for your Mustang, you're going to put spoilers, or you're going to put different seats, or you're going to have your pickup truck and you're going to put running boards and camping equipment on the back. So it's kind of a show with a little bit of all that, but they've incorporated, there's a section, the hot rod section, that has cars in it and I've had this car at SEMA show. And in fact, this was in that following year after I built the car. Mickey Thompson had this in their booth because I did get these tires and wheels, and I said, I'm going to put them on that car, and I did. So they had it in their booth the following year. And so, yeah, the manufacturing part of it is where it's all these aftermarket parts and paint. They got all the paint people there. They got the people that do wraps there. So you can go there and start at one end and come out the other, and you can practically build a car or truck or anything you wanted and make it look any way you want it to look.
Yeah, SEMA is one of my favorite shows. I'm gonna be honest, one of it because it's in Vegas, and I like Vegas.
Right.
And the thing about SEMA is they say where everything new makes its debut. So when Paxson comes out of the supercharger, or Goodyear comes out with tires or whatever, they unveil it there. So for us custom guys and aftermarket guys or whatever, it's like, you know, Christmas.
Right.
But be honest with you, maybe because I'm a Michigan boy, and I mean, you guys can comment down below what's your favorite show in the country. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Me, I'm a Detroit Autorama guy. I always have. I always will be. We can talk about the Riddler, but I am curious because you've been to probably every show across, you know, North America. What do you like? What's your favorite show or shows out there?
Well, probably because I've been to every Autorama since 1966, and I've never missed one. I go every year, and I've probably the last 25 to 30 years, I've had a car in there every year since, you know, when I was 16 years old and went there, and it's just like you're in awe. Wow, look at all the chrome on that engine. And I said, some year I'm going to do this, and I want to have a car in here sometime.
But there's a lot of good shows out there, and I mean, Autorama is not the biggest show. They don't have the most people, the most cars, or anything like that. It is arguably the oldest or most prestigious indoor event,
right?
You know, in America.
Yeah.
But what is it about Autorama that people fall in love with?
Well, I think it's the variety of everything going on. You got a pinstripe and jamboree going on. You got the basement going on with the rat rod cars. You got bands playing. It's just put together with a little bit of everything. I know this year they're doing a Evel Knievel tribute, and they're doing 5 or 6 of the generations of the Batmobile this year. So they bring things in like that, and of course we all go to Cavalcade of Customs put on by Chuck Miller. So it's a variety of everything. But there's a lot of other shows like that too. I mean, if you want to know some of the best shows that I think I go to, I've been to the Grand National Show. That's a good show. Probably one of the best ones I just have to go to now every year is Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Darryl Starbridge Show. They have 1,000 cars, and they have a basement area but they do flame throwing, burnouts, demolition derby, downhill races for kids. They have beard contests. They have all these things going on, and it's just like you're busy the whole weekend. You know, I could spend 3 days there, and it's nonstop things going on. It's one of the best shows in the country. And but there's a lot of other good shows. I like going to Columbus. I like Louisville. You know, to the Street Rod Nationals, to Good Guys. They put on good shows. So there's a lot of good shows all over the country. One of the best swap meets I like to go to every year is called Iola, Wisconsin. They have 4,000 swap meet spots. They have 500 cars in the car corral, so you can go buy some more cars. And, you know, there's 1,000 cars in the show car area. That's another good show I love to go to. And when I go to some of these places, like I showed up Tuesday to Tulsa, and so I'm there Tuesday, Wednesday through all the way till Monday. So I'm there for a week. And so I just love hanging out, and I love hanging out with people I know and seeing new people, and, you know, and all my friends that I've met over the years. And that's what a lot of these car shows about. And even if you go to a local car show around here, or you go to Depot Town, or you go somewhere, you see all your friends there. And so kind of for me, it's like when I go to Detroit Autorama, you know, we've been going so many years and know so many people in this area. It's like it's all your friends are there for the weekend from all over the Michigan area, and even across the country they come there. So you just see a lot of your friends and meet and greet and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a good show in the wintertime for everybody to get together.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, it will always be Cobo Hall to me, you know, and again, it's not Huntington Place. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. It'll always be Cobo Hall to me. And don't quote me on the exact year, but I think in 1957 was the first year they did the Don Riddler Memorial Award, and it's Ridler. Everybody always spells it Riddler. It's the guy's name.
Right.
And, you know, the Riddler Award is unique to the Detroit Autorama. And you know, they don't do it anywhere else. If you're a West Coast guy, you might say Amber's the most prestigious award out there, or this or that, or Pebble Beach. You know, for me, being a Michigan boy, there's nothing bigger than the Riddler.
Exactly.
What is the Riddler Award? What's that about?
Well, like you say, it's the most prestigious award in the country. Even some of the other ones claim it, which theirs are good too. But it's the first time shown. You can't even take a picture of the car. If you post it on Facebook, you're out of it.
So the car has to make its debut at the Detroit Autorama?
They have to unveil it at Detroit, and the engineering and the work involved in the whole thing, they're no longer $500,000 cars. They're millions of dollars cars that are being built, and the perfection of them and the design of them and the engineering, and each guy gets to explain all the engineering and everything that's done to the car. And there's a team of judges who are very knowledgeable, and they go through them cars with fine-tooth combs and white gloves. And so it's something that is probably the most prestigious award, and because everybody looks up for the whole year to wait to go to see what the Riddler, who's going to win that Riddler Award, whether it's going to be a local guy that's built a car in the garage, or is it going to be somebody like Chip Foose or Kindig, or one of these guys that's building a car for somebody else, and it's built in a shop with 25 guys in it. And but everybody kind of waits for that Riddler award announcement.
Yeah.
And so it's
and people whisper about it too. Like,
yeah, they do.
Did you hear so-and-so is, and I don't want to say any names because we're coming up on Detroit, but did you hear so-and-so is bringing a car this year? Or, I heard that and you're like, really? Okay.
Oh yeah. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
You know?
It gets it going. And I mean, they changed this a little bit, which some people were upset. I think it's cool is that, you know, I think it opens to the public Friday at noon. When you walk in on Friday at noon, is they have the Pirelli Grade 8 already.
Yeah.
So basically when you walk in, they have a special flag, and you can, you know, we call it Riddler Row, which, you know, it's not one row anymore. It could go 3 or 4 or 7 deep now because there's so many cars.
Right.
But you basically, when you walk in the show Friday, Saturday, you know, or Sunday, and they give the award out on Sunday, is you know who the final 8 is. And, you know, you can look to go, these are the 8 cars that have a shot to win the Riddler. Right. And then you can kind of bet with your buddies, oh, I like the Cadillac. No, that Model T is cooler, or whatever.
Yeah. And yeah, everybody has their opinion. And, well, I don't like Cadillacs, or I don't like coupes, or I don't like this, or, you know, but eventually when they do pick the winner, you realize, yeah, that car is the one that really should win. And I see that every year. Like, yeah, there's like last year, the Mercury, it was just over the top. And so
they very rarely or ever get it wrong, and
Yeah.
politics don't come into play. The best person wins, which we can't say that about everything these days.
Exactly. Because a lot of politics and a lot of car shows.
Yep.
And
I mean, I mean, these cars, like you said, I mean, you could hire a team, spend $2-3 million and not make the grade 8 now, which is
Yeah,
crazy. It's
right.
possible. So let me ask the question: when are you going to build a car for the Riddler? Why aren't you going to go for it?
Well, I thought about it over the years, but of doing it. But yeah, I don't have the money. Yeah, I don't have the time or the money to do something like that. But I've got one car back there that I was going to try to go for it, and but then I'd need a lot of help and time, and I just got so much going on all the time that, with all these cars to put that, you got to spend 2 or 3 years to work on that car. And, even if you made the grade 8 would be an accomplishment.
Huge.
Huge. Yeah. And so, yeah, just making the grade 8 would be something. And, I thought about that. I got one car back there that is really cool. But then I asked the judges about it, and they said, well, the car was in there 30 years ago. And I said, well, yeah, but it'd be completely changed. But they said, no, it wouldn't be eligible.
Wow.
Because it's not a ground up start from scratch car. So, I think I could make it into a contender for the grade 8, but they said, no, you can't do it because it wouldn't be considered because the car was actually shown 30 years ago as a basic car. But, you take it 10 steps up, it's a whole different car. You're starting from scratch. And they said, no, it wouldn't do it because you got to start from scratch and can't even be a picture of it.
Yeah. And they do have hard rules. And I mean, and I do like the rules. Like it needs to go forward and reverse, turn under its own power and stop under its own power. Under its own power. And people go, well, of course, all cars would do that. I mean, if you go back to the 50s or whatever, and like, let's say GM was building a show car, they might have a motor in it, but there'd be no pistons in it. It was a static car.
Right.
So like people didn't realize when GM or whoever was building show cars, a lot of them were just like rolling pieces of art where, Autorama said, no, we want a car that actually functions, but then it's going to be a piece of art. And that was new in the show car world back then.
Right.
Well, we appreciate, you spending all this time with us today, but, I know that we've talked in the past about getting the next generation of hot rodders involved, like these young kids and stuff. What's some of the things that you or I can do to help out the next generation of kids getting involved in cars?
Well, one of the things myself and a lot of the other older car guys do is we try to get these younger kids involved. We try to get them interested into what we're doing or what we did. And, really push them to, well, yeah, you got to get yourself a car. You can do what you want with it, whether it's, even if it's a foreign car or it's a rat rod you want to build or you want to build a custom. But, we try to push them to get them started. And so once they get started and get interested, and then you compliment what they did. Oh, that really looks cool what you did. We like that. You should keep going and keep interested in what you're doing and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, all car people need to look out for the next generation to pass our passion, our love on to them. I mean, even if it's hiring a kid for X amount of dollars an hour to wipe down tools and help sweep the shop, because there was a time with you or myself, we didn't know anything about cars, and somebody out there took the time to teach us and show us and was patient with us. So, I mean, me personally, I think that, all of us need to kind of look out for the next generation too.
Exactly. And that's kind of the way I was brought up, and when I was very young, uh, I got interested in cars. I worked in a gas station. I made 75 cents an hour. And I don't care if I worked 100 hours a week. And I just wanted to be there and to work and help on cars and learn what was the mechanics and the owners were teaching us. And so the owners even helped me work on my car to get it ready to go to the drag strip on Saturday. And so, I realized they were helping me. Now I want to help these other kids. And so we kind of get the kids pumped up and get them interested in what they're doing. And so I had a lot of people that were very influential on things that I did. Of course, like I think I told you the story about how I got started. Everybody kind of knows me as the flamethrowing guy. And there was a guy named Bob Larson, engineering over on Van Born Road in Taylor. And I was 16 years old. I was sitting in daily driving, and he come by, and I shot these flames right in front of my car, and I got all excited. And when I seen that, I was just amazed with how the car put that big of flames out. So I went over and talked to him, and he told me, you come to my shop tomorrow morning, and I'm going to show you how to do it on your car. And he helped me put these little flamethrowers on my car. And they were only 2 or 3 feet, weren't very big. But since then, I've kind of grown into a little bit bigger flames with some of my cars. And people like that, got me started. And I was a very impressionable young kid at that time.
I mean, it obviously changed your life and helped shape, who you are today. I mean, going back to, even when you were 16 years old, you still think of it, and it was still a great memory in your life.
Right. And, when I was 16 years old, everybody was putting names on the side of their cars. So my 55 Ford, the guy put the Shaboom on the side of my car for me. And so I kind of stuck with that name all these years. And so it's kind of grown into what I'm doing now and all these cars. And I just like working on cars still.
Yeah. So what do you use for these flames? Is it propane? Is it natural gas? What's propelling these huge flames?
Well, a lot of it is gasoline. I do use propane. There's a couple other things I use, which is a secret because I can't tell all the secrets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very dangerous too. So you have to be very careful. I double check, triple check everything on my car all the time because shooting flames is dangerous and you have to be careful. And you don't want to hurt nobody, burn nobody, especially yourself. But that's something, safety is one of the biggest things that I look after all the time.
Absolutely. All right. Let's say, 50 years down the road, we're dead and gone. What do you want the people to know about you or remember about you, about your car collection or your legacy or your mission statement, if you will?
Well, hopefully people will look at and see the things I did throughout my life, that they can do the same thing if they work hard. You work hard at something and follow through with something, and you get an idea and you take that idea and you put it towards your car. We don't know what kind of cars it's going to be in 50 years or 20 years or whatever, but you take the ideas that you have in your head. A lot of this stuff is like an artist. And artists, they think of things and they come up with these amazing paintings or drawings or artwork, some type of artwork like the dragon or one of, people just making any kind of auto art. So it's just that if you follow through with something and you get an idea and that's your passion, to just follow through with it and keep working towards that.
Awesome. Well, hey, we really appreciate your time today. Love talking to you guys, and Gary from Refinished Media, and we'll definitely see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much.
Wow, you made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much. If you like what we're doing here, go ahead and click a like. You can follow us. In the future, we're going to release more videos, all on automotive content, so look for us in the future. Thanks for watching.